What's up, guys? Welcome to Touchdown Talk, where everything and anything football goes. I'm your host, Jason, and today we have a special episode 2 of our offensive and defensive weapons. Now, episode 1 came out on Tuesday. That was the NFC East edition. Today, episode 2 will be the AFC East edition. But before we get into our episode, I just wanted to make a quick note that the background is changing. It's going to look a bit different from time to time now until it is finished. I'm redoing and reorganizing everything where I'm recording, trying to make it look as nice as possible, trying to make it look as the best NFL experience for not only viewers to watch, but for also me to like where I am, to enjoy what I'm doing, to like what's behind me, what's in front of me, and to be able to watch all the NFL games. And that is why everything's going to be changing. It's going to look a bit new from time to time until it is all finished. But without further ado, let's get into our episode today, AFC East edition of our offensive and defensive weapons. So let's start off with the Buffalo Bills, the defending champs. And let's start at the quarterback position. Josh Allen, running backs James Cook and Devin Singletary, wide receivers Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, and tight end Dawson Knox. Now that is the offense that I went with for this. Now some may include Jamison Crowder for their offense, but I decided to go with James Cook instead and Gabriel Davis ahead of Crowder just because of what's going to happen this season. Now everyone knows Josh Allen. We all know what kind of player he is. One of the strongest arms in the NFL, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, and one of the best overall quarterbacks in the NFL just because of how he's been playing and how he's looked as of late. Moving on to our running backs, where we have Singletary. He's been on and off the field, hasn't produced as well as the Bills had hoped, which is why drafting James Cook might be able to turn things around. And if Cook's anything like his brother, he is going to be phenomenal. And Dalvin Cook probably installed a lot of things in James. They have a lot in common, I would see, by the field work. And they growing up together probably played together, so they know each other very well. And James Cook, I think, is going to blow up for the Bills this year. I think by mid-season, he will be their clear-cut number one back. I think if he could stay healthy and be on the field, by mid-season, I would say by week 9, he will be the clear-cut number one back ahead of Devin Singletary. Now, our receivers, obviously we have Stephon Diggs. We know that Diggs is one of the best receivers in the league. We know him and Allen have one of the best connections in the league. And there's not a lot to say about Diggs because we all know the kind of player he is on and off the field. We know how he plays on the field. We know his talent, the connection with Allen, his maturity level, his veteran presence with the team. But a guy who I want to talk about is Gabriel Davis. Now, Gabriel Davis did shine out in last year's playoffs. 4 touchdowns in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. That loss in overtime really hurt the Buffalo Bills. And Gabriel Davis really shined out, though. He came to play, and he showed why he can be that number 2 wide receiver for a team. But with that being said, they also have to rely on other guys like Crowder on that offense. But I do think that Gabe Davis is going to be their number 2 guy, and he's going to play extremely well across the field from Stephon Diggs. Then lastly, we have our tight end, and that is Dawson Knox. Now, Knox really shined out with the Bills as of late. He's become more of a well-known guy in the league. And I think that Knox is going to have his breakout year this year. I think Knox is really going to show the true player he is, the kind of player he is, and why he is a top tight end. Not one of the best in the league just yet, but I think after this season and next season, I think he'll really be able to start getting into that conversation. I think he's just shy away from showing his true potential, and I think this year is the year he breaks out. Now, moving on to their defense, they have Ed Oliver, Trayvon Edmonds, Von Miller, Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, and Micah Hyde. Now, I chose these guys because I think these guys, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I choose these players because I think these are the guys who are going to have the best seasons at that position. So the offensive guys, I think those are going to be the best offensive players for the team, and same for the defense. Now, Ed Oliver, right up the middle, he's going to come up. He's going to do what he does best. He's going to be that pure power rusher that they need up the middle. and going well with him is going to be where Von Miller comes in. Now, Von Miller was a great acquisition in the offseason. They brought him in, signed him on a huge, massive contract to bring him in from the Rams, which he just won a Super Bowl. And now pairing him with Ed Oliver in that defense and Tremaine Edmonds on that linebacker position, I think Von Miller coming off of the edge with Oliver up the middle, I think it's going to make for a tough offense to really defend. I think offenses are going to really have to focus on Von Miller, which is going to lead to Ed Oliver getting some pressure and vice versa. I think it's going to be tougher offensive line, but if offensive lines can line up against guys like Donald, Miller, Sebastian Joseph Day that the Rams had last year, I think that the Bills are going to just strike a different presence just because of all the levels of field. Speaking of the other levels, on that second level next to Miller will be Edmonds. And Edmonds has been a little shaky as of late, but I think he's going to be able to show promise. And just like Dawson Knox, I think this is the year where he's really going to break out and show not only Bills fans but NFL fans that he is here and he is a true linebacker at the position. Now getting to that third level is where you have Tre'Davious White at that cornerback position. Now Tre'Davious White, I think, is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Now I know I've been saying that a lot for the Bills, but it's true. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Tre'Davious White, and Von Miller, one of the best at their respective positions. Now, White did miss a lot of games last year with his injury, which really hurt the Bills. And I think that having him is going to make a huge difference. Now, pairing him in that secondary with guys like Jordan Poyer and Hyde at the safety position, now they felt really disrespected last year because not one Bills defender was on that Pro Bowl roster. Now I know the Pro Bowl might get thrown away, there might be a lot of changes with it, but you still want to be on that list. It means something that the fans appreciate what you've done. And I think that it was just really disrespected that the Bills did not have not one defensive player when they do have guys like Hyde and Poyer. And now when they have guys like Von Miller and Tre'Davious White is back. So I think it's going to make a huge difference for that Bills defense this season. Now moving on from the Buffalo Bills back to the Dolphins. Now with the Miami Dolphins, for their offense, I have Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, running backs Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert, wide receivers Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and tight end Mike Gesicki. Now, I really like the receiving corps for the Miami Dolphins. I think it's one of the best in the league. Now, when you have two wide receivers and a tight end, I think just like the Philadelphia Eagles with Brown, Smith, and Goddard, I think the Dolphins are right up there at the top when it comes to just trios in the league. Now, when you look at this trio, it's two speedy wide receivers. Now, we know what Jalen Waddle and Tua can do together. We know the connection that they have. Mike Gesicki has been in the offense. He wasn't a huge part last year, but I expect him to get back into it this year, especially with Tyreek Hill there now, and teams having to look more to Tyreek Hill rather than look at Gesicki. So I think Gesicki's really going to show some talent this year, show his promise this year, along with Jalen Waddle, who's really going to play against the number 2, number 3 corners, with Tyreek Hill being the main guy. Now, with Tyreek Hill being the new acquisition for the Miami Dolphins offense, it's really going to be a true test to Tua. Now, I know everyone's just bashing Tua's arm strength, bashing Tua's ability, but it is going to be a test this year. Now, if Tua can keep up with Tyreek Hill's speed, which I think he will be able to, and I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to prove a lot of people wrong, and just like Jalen Hurts for the Eagles, have a breakout season. Now, with the running backs, they brought in both Edmonds and Mostert, two speedster guys, two backup running backs on their respective teams. Now, Edmonds backed up Connor for the Cardinals, and Mostert backed up the committee that the Niners had, and he had some injuries. But the speed that these two guys have, I think it's going to blend really well with the Miami Dolphins, and their offense might be the fastest in the NFL with Waddle, Hill, Mostert, and Edmonds at that helm for the offense. Now, moving on to their defense, we have Christian Wilkins, Jalen Phillips, Jerome Baker, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, and Javon Holland. Now, when you look at this defense on paper, you might not know a lot of these guys. And that's because Christian Wilkins has been an under-the-radar guy who I really love in the NFL. Now, I love him with the Dolphins. I think he's going to have a great season this year with them. And that just adds in because of the other guys that they have. Now, at that first level, you have Wilkins, you have Emmanuel Ogbah, who some Dolphin fans watching this might be a little mad that he might have been snubbed from this list. But I do think that Wilkins is going to have the better season this year than Emmanuel Ogbah. So if you're a Dolphin fan watching this, don't be too mad that Ogbah's not on this list. Now, he might be snugged in your opinion, but I do think that Wilkins is going to have the bigger season. Now, along with him, you have Jalen Phillips and Jerome Baker at that second line. Now, Phillips is going to be more of the edge rusher for the Dolphins, coming in off the edge. And when you have Ogbah and Wilkins on one side, and then you throw in Phillips on the other side, it's really going to be a little dangerous trio right there for that Dolphins defense. Then when you get to the second level, and you have Jerome Baker at linebacker, now he's more of an under-the-radar guy as well. Teams don't really look at him as a threat, as guys like when you look at the Niners with Fred Warner, when you look at other teams who have that one guy up the middle that you know is going to be the demon for that team. But Jerome Baker's not that guy for the Dolphins. Teams don't look at Jerome Baker and say, that's who we need to focus on. They're going to look at that secondary with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard and say, that's where we need to focus. So Jerome Baker's going to have a good season this year, just as well as last year. Yeah, I think even better, just because he's going to fly under the radar. And with the addition of a player on that Dolphins team, with the new scheme that they're going to run, a new head coach for the Dolphins, I think they're going to mesh really well together, and they're going to complement each other well. Because when you have Phillips, Wilkins, and Ogbah up the middle, you're going to have guys like Jerome Baker hovering over the middle of the field. Then when you get to their defensive backs, you get to that secondary, I think this is their strongest suit. Now, Jones and Howard are two phenomenal cornerbacks in the league. I think Howard is in that top tier with other cornerbacks, and I think Byron Jones is just at that number 2 tier, maybe top 3 tier level at that cornerback position. But Byron Jones has really complemented Howard well, and vice versa. Both of them on opposite sides of the field makes teams think where they're going to throw the ball. Because when you have two of these top cornerbacks and you have like 2 receivers, like say in practice when Hill and Waddle have to go against Howard and Jones, it's really tough to see who you're going to give the ball to. Because if they're lining up in man coverage, they're lining up in the zone and they're covered, you're going to have to rely on your number 3 guy. So as for instance, the Buffalo Bills, when they have Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis lined up on Howard and Jones, they're going to have to rely on Jamison Crowder to come out and make a play. And that's kind of what the Miami Dolphins defense holds. That's kind of what the Miami Dolphins defense does. And you can't forget about their safety. Rookie last year, Javon Holland. I think he's a really good guy. Now, Holland coming out of Oregon, I think he was a great pick for the Miami Dolphins. Now, as you can see, Oregon Duck right there. I really liked Javon Holland, and I think he's going to play extremely well with that Miami defense team. Now, Holland is a great corner for the Dolphins. He's going to be a great safety for them. He's going to mesh really well with the team, and I think that Holland making a play for the Dolphins this season is going to be a time to see, because we've seen glimpses last year, but I think this year is where he's going to shine out, especially when that defense can stay healthy. You're going to have a lot of guys there, and then you're really going to undermine Holland just like you're going to undermine Baker on that defense. Now, moving into our third team in this division, that is the New England Patriots. Now, their dynasty was over once Brady left, but now, with Mac Jones at the helm, make the playoffs with his first year in the league. It's a scary time in the NFL if you were against the Patriots all those years, because now it looks like they're coming back under Bill Belichick. But, however, they did lose Josh McDaniels, so it's going to be a little tough for them on the offensive side. We don't know who's going to be calling the plays yet, don't know what's going to go on with their offense. But speaking of their offense, I chose to give quarterback Mac Jones, running back Damian Harris, wide receivers Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne, and tight ends Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Now, they brought in Bourne, Henry, and Smith last season. Really good acquisitions for the Patriots. They spent a ton of money on the team last year. And they drafted Mac Jones. He fell to them in the draft. So I think he really complements the team well. He's a great replacement for Brady in that system. He works well with them. Now, I'm not comparing Jones to Brady in any sort of way. No question that Brady is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best, number one, number two, depending on where you have him in your list. He is one of the GOATs of the world, one of the GOATs of the NFL. But Mac Jones has played well in his rookie year. Now, I'm excited to see if he can continue that throughout this year. I'm really intrigued by Mac Jones and what he can do with the Patriots. Now having to learn a new offense without McDaniels there. But that's when he has guys to help him out. Now, Damian Harris was in that running back committee. Now, the Patriots always swap running backs here and there because Bill Belichick kind of wants to focus on one guy. And if you make a mistake, you're on the bench. Now, we saw it with Ramondre Stevenson last year, where he had a fumble earlier in the season, got benched for, I think, 3 games. He didn't come. But then when he came back, he made a splash for the team. Now, when you look at their receivers, Myers and Bourne might not be 2 guys that pop out at you and you're like, I want that guy on my team. Or those are the guys who we need to 100% focus on the offense. They're not those guys. They're not the top guys. But these are 2 guys who are good at their position and they get the job done. Now, I am a huge Kendrick Bourne fan. I really liked him when he was with the Niners, and when the Patriots brought him in, I thought he was going to be dangerous for them. And he did play really well last year, and I expect him to do the same this year, and I expect him to be their breakout player. Now, Jacoby Myers, he was struggling last year, couldn't find the end zone, but he was getting the receptions, was getting the yards, was getting those crucial plays for the team. Now, this season, in his second year with Mac Jones, a new offense for the entire team, I think Myers is going to be one of those guys who scores a couple of touchdowns for the Patriots. It's not going to be like last year where he only got 1 touchdown late in the year, but I think Myers finally breaks out this year and scores those touchdowns that he didn't have last season. And you can't forget about their 2 tight ends. Now, Jonnu Smith brought in from the Titans, and Hunter Henry brought in from the Chargers. Now, these 2 guys are good at their position. They're 2 good tight ends. But together, it's kind of different to see 2 of these tight ends kind of work together. Now, when you see 2 tight ends at this level, and they're both good, it's kind of hard to see who you give the upper hand to. So, the Patriots do like to run 2 tight end sets, which is why they did go out and sign both of these guys. So, looking at the team, it looks like a good offense, but when you look at the rest of the AFC East, it's going to be challenging, and this is going to be one of those divisions that are the most competitive now, just like the AFC West is going to be. And then lastly, a surprising underdog team, a sleeper team, is the New York Jets. Now, with their offense, quarterback Zach Wilson, running backs Michael Carter and Breece Hall, along with wide receivers Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and newly acquired tight end CJ Uzomah. Now, at that quarterback position, just like Mac Jones, Zach Wilson is going into his second year, but Zach Wilson didn't play as well as Mac Jones last year, but he was on the Jets. It was his first year in the league. It was Robert Saleh's first year as a head coach, and they did struggle, but the Jets have always struggled, and the Jets have been one of those most struggling teams, but it does look like this team might be able to turn it around, and that is because 2 of my favorite guys on this Jets team are Michael Carter and Elijah Moore. Now, I really liked how Carter played last year, and I think it was disrespectful for the Jets to go out and draft Breece Hall really early on in the draft, just like I didn't like how the Jags drafted Travis Etienne when they had James Robinson. But then again, Breece Hall is the guy here now. Now, Michael Carter is the number 1 back in my opinion. I don't think Breece Hall can overtake him. And I think the way Carter played last year, I don't know why the Jets drafted Breece Hall, but he is going to be their number 2 in my eyes. I think Michael Carter has the potential to be a top back in the league. Now, if he's given the chance with the Jets, that would be great. If not, I could see him going to another team and really shining, because I think Carter has the potential to be that guy for a team, be that franchise back. So we'll see what he can do this year. We'll see how the Jets run their offense with Breece Hall as well being a rookie. But the main position I want to focus on is that wide receiver position for the team. And that is because Elijah Moore had a great year last year, really broke out as a rookie. And I think he's going to do the same thing this year. I think he's going to take it up a notch now being in his second year with the team, second year with the offense, second year with Zach Wilson, second year with Robert Saleh head coach. So a lot of change for the Jets. Now, Carter and Elijah Moore, two of the guys going into their sophomore years, and then Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson both being rookies into this offense. But Garrett Wilson is going to complement Elijah Moore really well. I think Moore and Wilson are going to be great together because they're going to be other duos. Like you see Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. You see Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So you're really starting to see these teams that have these two wide receivers that really shine out. And both being so young, they're on really cheap deals. The Jets don't have to worry about paying them. And that's the good part about this offense. Wilson, Carter, Hall, Moore, and Wilson are all on rookie deals. Now you're going to get the joke this year, Wilson to Wilson. That's going to come up all the time. Every time there's a pass, a touchdown between Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson. But these 4 or 5 guys, these 5 offensive guys for the Jets, excluding CJ Uzomah, are all on rookie deals. And that's the good thing about the Jets is they're young, they're cheap, and they're good. Now, a lot of people are iffy on the Jets, but I do think that they have the potential because they don't have to worry about paying them just yet. They don't have to worry about the age. They don't have to worry about none of that because they're still young, still on cheap deals, and they're going to shine out because they do have the potential to be a top team. Now, that's going to come in a couple of years. I don't think the Jets are just there yet. They might be another year, 2, 3 away. But depending on if they can keep the team together and keep bringing in guys, I think the Jets have a chance. Now, lastly for their offense, but certainly not least, is tight end CJ Uzomah coming off of a loss in the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, did get hurt towards the end of the season, but he did play in the playoffs. Now, CJ Uzomah is one of those underrated, under-the-radar type of tight ends. He's one of those guys that people don't really look at. But after last season, some teams might be looking a little bit towards him a lot more just because of what he did with the Bengals. But with a team that has 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and that tight end who are all good at their respective positions, it's hard for defenses to cover all of them. And then moving on to their defense, where we have Quinnen Williams, John Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson, C.J. Mosley, Amon Sauce Gardner. Amon Ra is with the Lions. I get confused with them sometimes just because of their names. But Ahmad Gardner for the Jets and DJ Reed. Now, for this defense, I really like to see Gardner at that quarterback position with Reed. Now, these are 2 new guys for that Jets secondary. And if you look at this defense, it really goes well with Robert Saleh. Now, Quinnen Williams and John Franklin Myers on that D-line right there. And then Mosley and Johnson at that linebacker position. Now, Jermaine Johnson is one of the guys that are a sneaky pick this year. Now, the Jets got him at that number 26 spot in the first round, and he's coming out of Last Chance U, where he was coached by Coach Jason Brown. Now, he was on the Netflix series Last Chance U, and that's where I first saw him. So when I saw him get drafted, I was really excited because I watched how he grew on the show. I watched how he played on the show. And then seeing him come into the NFL and get drafted in the first round, it was exciting to see. Now, I thought he was going to go a lot earlier. I wanted to go a lot earlier. But I do think he has found the perfect fit on that defense because you have 2 guys on that D-line who are still respectively young with John Franklin Myers and Quinnen Williams, along with linebacker in his position, C.J. Mosley. So they have that going for them. And then the secondary is where the problem is at. Now, I like their D-line, I like their linebackers, as I just mentioned, but their cornerbacks, their secondary is where they're a bit iffy. Now, DJ Reed coming in from Seattle wasn't their number 1 guy. And then Gardner being a rookie, they picked him early, but we don't know what we're going to get from him. Now, he does fit the New York style. He had his sauce chain. He has the name for it. He has all of this for New York City. He has the personality and just how he brings himself, how he carries himself. It really fits New York City. It really fits the team. It really fits where he's at. So I'm excited to see what he can do for the team and how he can act for the team. So it does intrigue me to see how Gardner plays for the Jets and goes along with Reed. Now, without further ado, that is going to be it for this episode, episode 2 of Offensive and Defensive Weapons, AFC East Edition. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, episode 1, NFC East Edition, will be linked down below so you guys can go watch that if you want. That will be in the description, along with always the Instagram where all the designs come from, as well as the YouTube's Instagram where I do post some clips. I've been lacking on that, but I will be posting some clips from the videos. And then in addition, I also linked the TikTok where I will be getting back to my daily videos on there. So if you guys did enjoy this content, you guys do enjoy my videos, I will see you guys next time, and that will be tomorrow, which is Friday, for NFL News in 10 Minutes, episode 8.